Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully my volume is okay. It's not too loud. I was messing around with filters, I think a while back, like a couple of weeks ago, and hopefully so the volume's not too bad. We will get started once a couple more people come in, so it's not just you and me. Alright, let's hype this up. Hello, hello, how are y'all doing? Ooh, hope you feel better, Greta. Take care not to get a cold. Anyway, it's like raining really hard right now, so I don't know if you guys can hear like the rain like pounding down on the roof. But it's cold enough that I busted out a big old jacket. I'm sorry. Hopefully keep the volume low on this end then, so you don't like get a migraine even worse. We'll probably start with your piece first, so then you can go take a bed rest early on, okay? Alright, might as well get started. Or Misu. If you fall asleep, then you'll just have to go into the VODs, you know? Okay, let's start. So for Greta, you have this piece, and I know you gave me a couple of references, and so first things first, I'm gonna say that the angle for Angel and Aki just ain't right. I think the angle of the table is like top down, so if we were to fix it, you might want to change the angle of Aki, especially. Angel's you can somewhat be okay with it, but Aki, his body is like facing, like we're looking from down up, right? So it's not feeling believable. So I would probably change all the angles. Let's see. Okay. Hello, Jesse. You're driving. Eyes on the road. Don't get distracted. So for Aki, you gotta have to change the angle of his body. So his shoulder has to be more like how Angel's is, more rounded out. And then I'm guessing we might want to maybe make them a little bit bigger. Let's see if I can do this. Warp it. And especially if you're doing top-down angle, you have to make sure the head is slightly bigger, just because if you're looking from down top, this part is the part that gets foreshortened, and so the head's gonna look a little bit bigger, not too much bigger, not like big brain like that. Maybe just a little bit like that. Oof. The rain is really pouring down right now. I think yesterday I was at work and it was actually hailing, and that hasn't happened in a while in California, so it was pretty fun. Fun and scary for my car. Okay, so the angle of the head has to go this way, so let's see if I can do this. Make sure you have your navigation, so your navigator, so you can see it from the far away, especially when you zoom in like this. And then in which case... I'm pushing Angel back a little bit because there's just not enough space, especially because it feels like you just shoved them like way too close to the table, like they're just stuck to the table rather than there's breathing room and their legs are actually underneath the table, so you're gonna want to push them back a little bit. Give them a little bit of space, breathing room, and that way you can also see the angle a little bit better. The shirt right here, the jacket right there. Get rid of those extra hands. And I might say this needs to come up a little bit farther. I don't even know what fingers is which, so we're gonna fix this. There we go. This is fan art for Chainsaw Man, I believe. Greta has, you know, she went through her phase of Chainsaw Man brain rot, so obviously we're gonna be looking at a couple of more Chainsaw Man fan art from her. And how are you even watching this while you're driving, Jesse? That sounds so irresponsible. I don't condone this behavior. And then Aki's gonna require a little bit of trouble. I got to your garage. Alright, I'll give you a pass on that one. It's gonna be rough for me to fix this, but let's see. Especially if he's top down, you're not going to see a lot of his face. We're going to give his big ol' head a bit more of a brain. So let's see if we can do it. It's going to be weird. It's really hard to liquefy an angle, especially if it's not the angle that was originally drawn in. So if he looks wonky, you know why. Okay, somewhat got it. Okay. Whew. We're gonna have to fix this up a little bit. Eyes are supposed to be the same size, so... And we gotta bring down his bangs so he doesn't look like he's bald and a receding hairline. His eyebrows gotta point down. Everything basically wraps around a curve. Like this. So you gotta make sure everything wraps around that. Hence why I'm struggling so hard to try to get it right. Regards for his nose. guess we gotta bring down his mouth. Give him back his cheeks and his jawbone. And then if he is top-down ankle, the back is going to be shown a little bit more, hence why I'm pushing up his shoulders a little bit. We're going to see if we can round out this collar a little bit. And we're also going to push him back a little bit. Almighty Storm, let's see. Copy that. Somewhat works. Okay. So for suit jackets, you're gonna make sure you get the shadows underneath the lapels, to use the fancy term, or else it's not gonna look like a suit. See how that just adds a little bit more dimension to your piece when you have the proper shadows? And Greta, that also means when I see new pieces from now on, you gotta make sure you add your shadows. So this portion right here, I'm guessing we gotta bring it into shadow. So I'm gonna bust out, oops. Very light shadow, since it looks like it's very bright lighting. See the wings. Oops. Where's that down? And I feel like I want to give him maybe an arm that's like resting along like that, so you create a really nice angle. In which case, maybe his arm needs to come out in like an angle like that. I'm just gonna fix the eye so it doesn't look so wonky, because right now he looks like the weirdest weirdest alien I've ever seen. And then I'm gonna give him his mouth back. And when we're painting eyes, we have to make sure we're not using pure white. See? So that's, you did a good job. And then we gotta make sure that the irises are pointing in the right direction, especially if you're looking down, the top half is gonna be covered, so it's not, you're not gonna see any whites. And I'm gonna get a little bit of the shadow for the under eye, so the eye has a little bit of structure, just a little bit. Not too much. It's very subtle. Bring the ear back up a little bit so it follows along the eye line. Push his hair more towards a triangle shape so it looks a little bit more dynamic rather than just a ponytail like that. So when you're drawing hair, try to make bigger chunks of hair groups, so that tends to create a better silhouette when you're drawing. And then I'm just gonna give him his sword or something. So it creates a nice diagonal, brings your eye towards the center of the page. See how that helps you bring energy in the motion, in the picture? Right about now it's the time to flip the canvas to make sure all your proportions are looking good. There we go. Let's see if I can fix Angel's face. Move their head a little bit. So we want to make sure the head isn't like weird turtleneck and sunk into the wrong side. So if your body is leaning this way, you gotta make sure the head sticks out more towards that direction. And then throw that in there. Make sure the wings are big enough. Maybe his expression needs to change. I don't know what it needs to be. Maybe a smirk or something. I don't know. Really rough fix. We'll fix Angel's face real quick too. Fix the angle of her eyes at least. I'll move that down a little bit. In which case we gotta bring the ears a little bit bigger, a little bit higher up. Alright, and that's for the angle of the characters, and then in regards to the rest of the things, I would say you might want to bring some of these out further out. So exaggerate this space right here. I wouldn't put things too close together. You don't want tangential lines occurring in your pictures. So I would probably move this out a little bit, make it just a tad bit bigger. Rotate it a little bit so the cake is a little bit more at an angle. Maybe I would even make this knife pop out of the page so you can feel more of the same chaotic nature that you had in the reference photo that you sent me. So like, I don't know, blood splatters. What's a good paintbrush? I deleted all of my blood splatter paintbrushes because I was like, I don't need like 3 million of them, and at these times I'm like, I regret my life. I actually need them. It kind of works. Alright, we'll just pretend that it works, okay? Bring some of that blood splatter up here. And then I would fix this up a little bit. The angle of this particular drink ain't quite right. It would actually be hidden a little bit more, like that. And as always, we can't forget our beauticious shadows. A bit of shadow, and then maybe a little bit of that green light would cast onto there a little bit. Just like that or something, I don't know. I'm also gonna change the angle of the circle. So when you're drawing objects, even simple objects like a cup, you want to think of it in simple geometric shapes. So especially when you're doing this type of angle, don't ever forget your circles. So like a cylinder, okay, if you're coming up from top down angle like this, you can't lose this or else it won't look like the proper. See, look at how your circle is for your cake here. That means this drink also has to have that same circle. Whereas before, your drink had this angle. Look at how much shorter, squattier it is. So to make sure that all of your things on your table are in the same perspective, break it down back into simple shapes. So your plate is looking okay. Alright, we're gonna use our finger to compare. Looking okay. This one is a little bit wonky because that's what you're doing, is you're creating this perspective. And then it's just kind of chaotic. So I guess you would just want to decide whether or not you want a perfectly top down, which would make these a little bit, at least make this a little bit more round. Or if you're going for a more prolonged angle, in which case you're receding into the perspective line. So maybe they need to get a little bit smaller if they are further away, if you're doing this whole receding into the background kind of perspective. Or if they're more top down, then obviously these two need to be bigger, and then some of these objects need to change in perspective. And then I would say, based on the example that you sent me, I think they had a lot more objects on the table, so you'd probably just want to think about like adding a couple more utensils. Maybe say add some where's the shadow for this one? It might be glass, but there's a little bit of shadow coming from the flowers at least. So Greta, shadow, 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 shadows. And even if it's not from the flowers, the sides of the glass aren't quite as transparent. Yeah, Greta, where's your hand challenge? I know you have a headache, but you could totally do the 10-second ones at least. Really, really relaxed kind of exercise. Like you just sit and watch your show and then like doodle the hands. Alright, so there you go. That's the type of shadow you would see for those, and then you would get the shadow for the flower. And maybe I would lighten up some of these shadows. They're way too dark. Especially for the vibe that you want to be going for. And don't forget the shadow that happens here. Lighten up that shadow. So where is that drink? There we go. We're gonna put our shadow in the same direction since you want the light coming this way. Sort of like a flash shot. Okay, let's see if I can hide this baby. And you'll notice I erased away the shadow for the cake just because, let's be honest, the shadow would be sort of hidden away by the cake itself, so it's harder to see, especially if you're also wanting it to pop out of the border like this. You don't want to have that extra shadow there because it looks a little more paper cut 3D rather than like actual the cake is standing up and there's a shadow. So I'm just gonna hide these. And also see if I can fix the perspective of that flower. Okay, and then the flowers also get shadows. And that'll help bring some depth to the piece. See how that helps bring it out a little bit? Make sure the glass gets a little bit of that shadow. Just a tad bit, because glass isn't perfectly transparent, because there are instances where the glass is, say... Okay. So just look at these blue light glasses, right? So they're transparent, but then there's instances where you see there's some shadow that's being cast by either itself, the glass itself, or by the objects around it, and then there's some reflective light. And so that's how you want to approach drawing glass-like objects. And so maybe this part would get a little bit of shadow, and then we can bring back a nice, really pretty reflection. I'm gonna extend the nice shadow just a little bit so it feels a little bit more balanced. I'm gonna maybe move this shadow this way. I might even add some more of the... Yes, I love lasso tool. I feel like at this point I've just defaulted to freeform lasso because it's so much easier to control than the magnetic lasso tool. Like when I'm trying to outline something, it's so finicky sometimes. Like why the hell did it not capture this? Why did it not capture this? There's literally a shape right there, so I might as well just do it by hand. Or I start out with the magnetic lasso and then I refine all the shapes. Control Alt. Get rid of them, just like that. Makes their life a lot faster when you're trying to work fast. And so again, I'm thinking that we might want to put some... Oh, I'm on multiply. Yeah, so we might put some more blood, like pink splatters everywhere to kind of unify the piece. Alright, let's see what's a good brush to do this. Just like that. Bring it a little bit all the way around. I might even push this color, like some of it, some of the shadows, towards that same pink. Just so it unifies the piece a little bit better. I'm gonna say the cherries on this. Tedious as it may, it needs a little bit of that shadow, and so I'm going to push it a little bit more to the warm side because it's cherries, and so maybe some of that red is getting into the shadow. And the cake right here. Shadow, where is it? broken record right here. And the donut shadows don't need to be so dark. Same for the flan. The flan is relatively light, and you might consider maybe bringing a little bit of that pink red salmon color in there, so it doesn't look so stark in contrast. See that? Okay, let's erase these, and then I'm gonna merge them all together, and then we'll see the before and after. Get that out of here. Actually, maybe a couple of feathers can be poking out. Maybe you can add like some feathers right here, and that way it'll feel like it's a little bit more complete in terms of the border, because even if you have a border, you want to treat the whole thing as an entire composition, so you have to make sure that everything ties together. So feather right there, it's an ugly feather, but it's a feather nonetheless, so we embrace our ugliness. I'll extend the composition just a tad, because I don't want his hair to be stuck right there. I would also probably move this back a little bit. Just a tad bit, so there's not that much sticking together, and because the shadow's like basically touching the glass, okay, and it's too close. We don't like it. I don't know how to fix that, but we'll try our best. Maybe some of the petals fell down, and that way you get a little bit of more of that pink in there. This is not a perfect fix. I'm sure you have your layers, so fixing this would be a lot easier than how I'm fixing it. But you get the general idea. I'm trying to give you more breathing room. Maybe these stick out a little bit. Alright, so these are some of the changes I would make, especially to your piece. Add those shadows again, because everything looks a little too flat. Even in manga pieces or anime pieces where things are drawn a little bit more flat, they still ensure that they have their core shadows to help break up the shapes. And so you need to make sure that you have all your core shadows, or it's going to look like it's a coloring book rather than it's a completed illustration. So, before, after, see how the piece was just too empty around the borders, and so it looked like you're putting like an actual picture frame on there rather than it just being a part of a stylistic choice. Whereas afterwards you bring some of the pink out, you bring some of the elements out a little bit more, then it looks a little bit more complete, like you're actually purposely doing it and you want to create an illusion of jumping out of the page. So we will move on to Jessie's because it's just like a compositional issue. And so I'm gonna make this a little bit brighter. It's my personal preference. Obviously we don't work in pure white, but I like to work with a little bit brighter kind of canvas so I can see it a little bit better. And so from what I am seeing here, you seem to have drawn the perspective line pretty low. So we're gonna have to route everything this way. And so that means this bird probably needs to be flying with their belly facing towards us. Let me see if I can find it. Find a good reference pic. Alright, let's bust this out. Bird flying worm's eye view. So something like this kind of perspective. Alright, we're gonna do a little bit of photo bashing here. Wait, bird flying into the window. Where's that? I feel like some of these search results are a little too wonky. Anyway, I use Bing. Deal with it. Select inverse because I don't want to deal with that. As a typo search result? Oh, yes. How many times do people have to search that up in order for that to become like an automatic result? I can't imagine like a bird would fly into a window that often. Oop, forgot that baby. Oh my god. I'm on the wrong layer. Okay, anyway, so this would be maybe the perspective that we would want to be taking. And then the bird would be... We're trying to figure out the scaling. Maybe he wouldn't be too big. So it looks like they're flying above us. Like that, maybe. Let's get rid of this right here. And then the perspective regarding your person. We're gonna bust out Portrait Studio a little bit so we get some nice angle references. Okay. Delete this baby out of here and we're gonna add a figure. And then we're gonna turn her around. I'm gonna turn on camera lighting so we can see what we're actually doing and we're not gonna be affected too much by how the actual light. Good old reliable, right, exactly. I love Portrait Studio so much. It's worth the 80 bucks I paid for it. But it's like 50 right now, so kind of feeling a little bit sad. Okay, so Turn our camp. I'm gonna delete this stage. I don't want to accidentally click into it. Get rid of it. I don't care about shadows right now. Okay, I'm gonna shrink my Photoshop window a little bit so we can see both of them at the same time. Okay, then like Portrait Studio is not perfect by all means because it cannot mimic the natural way a body will actually have the arm bend and stuff. It's just a really great way to get like the general sense of the pose and the general way the anatomy works. And the one thing I don't like about Portrait Studio is it does not limit how the limb can go. So I can make the arm look so wonky like this. And so if you didn't know that the arm can't do that, shocker, then you would be falling into some traps. She's gotta lean forward a little bit. Just a little bit. Comes out a little bit. See, the pose is not perfect, but we're getting there, we're getting there. Make sure I don't get the wrong joint, that's for sure. Making sure that the forearm muscles are turned the right way. And then if you're running, your neck is surprisingly actually slouched a little bit. You are not running upright like this. There's no way anyone runs sprinting forward with their back straight as a board. So I gotta bend that spine just a tad bit. Give that head a little bit of a turn. Alright, something like that. It's not perfect. Turn that head just like you have yours. I feel like in which case if you want to show more of the face, maybe you consider the angle this way. In which case then you can actually see her face, otherwise we're just gonna be looking forward like this, and then we're gonna focus on the elements around, right? Just change the angle if you want to see the face. She could be, you know, peeking down towards you with her eyes looking towards the viewer like that. Yeah, so if we do this, all right, let me screenshot this baby. There we go. Versus if we do it like this. I'm gonna bring this Saw her back in a little bit. Okay, screenshot that. Alright, and then we're gonna cut them out. Alright. I'm gonna get rid of Portrait Studio because we've now got it. Got the pose. I don't want my computer to die from trying to run the whole thing. Okay, so also I would say you may want to expand the canvas a little bit, just a little bit. So it doesn't look super square and it feels like you have more breathing room for more stuff. So if we just do your plain angle right now, running forward. Maybe we don't show her back leg as much. Let's see if we can cut this baby out. Alright, magnetic lasso, do not fail me today. It's already failing me. Okay, okay, great to know, great to know. Put that leg back in there. No business being lost like that. Alright, so that would be the angle. Obviously you can make slight modifications to the whole thing. You can, if you want it to look something like how you have the girl running, you can definitely do that. I would say the leg would not poke out this way from this angle. It would only poke out if you did it more of this angle. Maybe slightly turned a little bit more. But in this instance where you have this particular angle, in this particular composition, you would want to fill up this bottom space, meaning either you do some type of shrubbery or we do some kind of interest in the sky. Meaning we have like some clouds coming this way, some shrubbery, or you have some kind of weird land formations up on top here to help you fill up the composition, because we don't want to leave it too empty. And since we kind of set the horizon line pretty low, that means all the stuff, major stuff, the interesting stuff has to happen in the bottom third of the piece. And so you can have your little doggo. Maybe we can make it a little bigger to fill up the space a little bit even more. Oops, I don't want to do that. Copy. In which case I would actually I would have maybe the doggo here. I'm not an expert at dog anatomy, so you'll have to excuse me if it does not look perfect. Sphericato, it's a cat, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll make the snout shorter because cats have shorter skulls. Okay, so this sounds like this is going to be a Pokemon fan art, and so Pokemon tends to have really pretty expansive skies. Oh, I'm on the wrong... Screw it, we're gonna redo that. Okay, so horizon line here. So maybe we have the sunset. Get you some of that really pretty cloud. In which case, get you some inspiration. Sunset, dramatic, clouds. I can't spell clouds, whatever. So maybe something like this, or even something like this. We simplify it. I'm a horrible streamer, okay? I don't know what the hell I am doing. I don't even know why I get paid to do art sometimes, okay? Anyway, so some kind of sky like this, maybe we simplify it, you know, don't make our life too hard. We break up the shape. Right, see how the cloud drama really helps add... Oh. Okay. Alright, so I really need to, you know, one of these days I'm just gonna make a wrong layer counter on the stream so you guys can see just how many times I get onto the wrong layer in one stream. It's kind of my fault though. It's because I don't label any of my layers, so they all look the same, and then I'm trying to work fast, so I end up working in the layer that I was previously on, and I don't pay attention. Life is just hard, you know? Alright, just see how I'm simplifying the cloud and breaking it up into this shape, this wonky ass shape. And so keep that low horizon line. I don't know what we would do with it. This would be some clouds. Again, I don't know what the situation for the color choice would be, but we're just gonna throw some colors in here for now. Just to block in that this is going to be clouds. Actually, let's not make our life that hard. Okay. So there's gonna be some type of cloud action happening. These would also be dark. Break up that shadow. Alright. If you're not sure about how you want your composition to work, don't go into color yet. Keep everything black and white so you can just get like the general sense of the energy. And so you aren't like stressing out about, oh, I don't know what tone or mood I want to capture with the color palette, because that shit is a whole other monster to tackle. So even sometimes when I'm like totally lost, I might go back into black and white and then later come on and play with some colors using the overlay layer. Okay, so we'll see that this area is pretty light, so I'm gonna darken up there. There we go. Alright, and then brightest source is your beauticious setting sun. I don't know, maybe we would do your baby, the Pokemons here. In which case maybe actually I want to shrink this a little bit, so I can get a little bit more of that cast shadow. I don't want to shrink it too much. I don't know, it's daunting to think that you would have to fill up this much space, but compositionally wise, I feel like you need that extra breathing room, so you're getting more of a cinematic feel. If it's too like closed off, like originally how you had it like this, like a square, everything looks too symmetrical. You see that? So either you go wider, or you can go higher, and then it really just becomes all about the viewer and this Pokemon trainer, whereas the wider version would be the viewer and the expansive world of Pokemon. So if you're looking to practice your environments, then by all means go for this composition. See that? I don't know, maybe we can make this a field. I don't know what it would be. A field with some glowing shrubbery. Let's throw some shrubbery in there. I just recently downloaded this new brush set by Devanelle, forgot her last name, but really liking it. Really quick way to just add a little bit of shrubbery, especially if I'm too lazy to try to do it by myself. Maybe that might be something, or maybe it'd be a more specific type of environment. I don't know. Those are choices you can make. Now, if we were to say, try out this angle, let's cut this out. I don't care about being perfect now, whatever. What am I even... Okay, close enough, close enough. Get it out here. Alright, and then I would totally change up the composition in this case. Okay, so how am I gonna do this? You can either do it... Actually... My dumbass, okay. I would trim off maybe this piece right here. Maybe cut it off like that. we would be doing this kind of perspective in that sense. So I would say maybe we bring some clouds like this, or a huge one right here. And then you can have your Pokemon right here, Blob. Pokemon would be right here. Absolute garbage blobs of a Pokemon, but okay, just pretend. Remember to bring our light source out here. Woo woo. Beautiful sky. Wow, wow, wow. Some more Pokemon here. Pokemon running up ahead. Maybe even another flying one right here. And then we get to do our cast shadow like that. Okay, and that will help bring your piece on that direction. All these cast a shadow. Helps you create that drama. Right, so that would be how you would approach that angle. Then you can even like add the hair. I forgot, how does your character look like? Short hair, okay, short hair. Oh my god. What a... Okay, so we do a little bit of editing. Character. I don't know how the hair actually is from the front. But you get the idea of hair's gotta rest on that skull a little bit. Okay, and then she's wearing the backpack. And the backpack can be kind of flying a little bit. That one arm kind of method of the backpack. And then we can probably even bring out the leg a little bit more like this. I just didn't do it. That way you get that kind of energy. Let's fix up this Pokemon blob. Give it a little bit more. Alright, you're gonna have to do a little bit of research again, referencing, because I'm not at all familiar. Cat running back to. Okay, so that's sort of. God damn. Maybe I should look up cheetah. Sprigatito. For sure. Okay, Sprigatito is like more chibi, more panther-like. So a lot of short legs, round shapes. Okay. Let's see if I can get it. Okay, we're gonna pretend this is... Let's see. Sprigatito a little bit bigger. So it looks like your character's looking back at it. Yeah, it's a big head cat, so... Gotta get its big fat head in there. And so you'll see that I'm doing very stubby legs because Sprigatito's got stubby legs, so it makes it look a lot cuter. No longer a blob, hopefully, but we definitely would not see its eyes, so our character most horrendous way. Yeah, right? So a lot more action is happening in this particular angle just because you get a lot more asymmetry, which always helps to play into the dynamicism of a piece, whereas those. This one, let me see if I can also spoof in a Sprigatito in here. Absolutely horrendous, but whatever. Yeah, so this would be more of a cinematic type of composition, especially the way I stretched out the whole composition instead of your original really square composition, because I see that you were aiming for this more final ending kind of vibe. So if you just stretch it out, it feels a lot more cinematic, whereas this one is a lot more in the moment, a screenshot of, like, maybe say they're all running towards like a singular goal. 5-point Mesu. Please don't give us our trauma again. And then maybe, oh shoot, maybe right here I would have a path or something. I don't know what the shit it would be. Am I? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Freaking crazy psychos. Okay. Yeah, maybe I would have a path right here. Make this shadow a little bit darker. And then, I don't know, something up in the foreground like here to help cover up that space a little bit. Like a rock or something. Because rocks are perfectly valid. Maybe there's, I don't know, the Pokemon Training Center here. Something like that. And so this would be more of a snapshot. And it's a little bit maybe more accomplishable, especially for you, Jesse, who don't have that much time to work on a huge piece. Because for sure this one would definitely require you to take a little bit more time to plan out how you want the environment to be. You'd want to think about what's going to sit in the background here, like what structures, what type of background is this? Is this a more naturey type of background, or is it a more city-like background? What types of Pokemon are you going to use to fill up this space here? And that stuff. And so it's very environment focused for this piece. And this one's a little less environment focused. And then in which case, if you really don't want to be environmentally focused at all, what you would do, let's see if I can do this. Whew. Bust that out there. Oh, flash flood. So if you're hearing that, it's because it's raining a lot. Whoop, 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 whoop. Let me turn that off. Guys, the world is ending in my area. This might be the last time you see me. Okay, duplicate. Okay. I'm gonna shrink this a little bit. Actually, you could even consider doing a closer shot and then having a vertical composition. Oh my god, oh my god. I hate my life. I hate that I do this to myself. Where? What? Okay. Oh my god, am I actually lagging? No. Here we go. You could do a vertical composition, just like that. In which case you could totally just add a lot less and make the character the pure focus. And then you could just have your Buddyo, your Birdo up here. And then maybe Spaghettito would be up here, looking back at us instead. Not quite sure just yet how I feel about this. Maybe right there, and then up front here. Another Pokemon poking out right here. And then it could be everyone is running away from something, running away from their responsibilities, running away from an enemy. Take advantage of the sky. Oops. Because now the horizon line is there. So the sky is gonna point this way. This way you can do whatever you want with it, honestly. Instead of a sunset, maybe there's a building here. They're running towards the Pokemon Training Center. I don't know how it looks. I didn't play that much Pokemon as a kid, so. In which case I'm gonna reduce the size of that cloud a little bit. So Pokemon Training Center, woo woo. And that's how you could get away with doing too much environment, especially if you just want to like do a fan art that talks about like the favorite Pokemons, or maybe it tells a story within the Pokemon universe. So 3 different ways you can approach this. You can do cinematic. Oh, where did even the bird go? Where did I put the bird? What layer? This one. Yeah, so play around with like black and white for now. I don't think you want to head into color just yet, because it's a little bit very ambitious. Oh my god, I copied the wrong layer. Okay. Yeah. I'll maybe I'll upload the PSDs for these if you guys are interested in keeping all the layers, or if you just want to like, you know, have the JPEG and you mess around with it yourself. It's up to you. Little Buddios, Bulbasaur, is the ugliest Bulbasaur you'll ever see. I literally am doing this off the top of my head. I don't remember how Bulbasaur actually looks like. Or, I don't know, something else right here. Fill up that space a little bit. Maybe a rock. Anyway, so before, it's pretty static kind of composition, not too sure about what direction, what the mood is, but then we have like 3 options: cinematic. Oh, I did. There we go. Cinematic, a cinematic, snapshot, and then maybe just a portrait version where you just focus on the characters instead, and then a little bit of the background. Okay, finally for Misou. Why the hell is this in like color? Maybe it's just the lighting. I'm just gonna do ourselves a favor. Boop. Yeah, Misou, let's get wrecked today. So this month is all about lips, eh? Why is it not hands, man? Actually, if we have time after this, maybe I'll reach into the hands challenge and we're gonna critique a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna raise the brightness a little bit. Okay, so I'm seeing that you did take my course pretty seriously about using clamshell shapes for the lips, so that's a good job right there. Good job, good job. There are a little bit of nuances that maybe you will address here. So starting off this lip right here, it feels like you simplified it based on this shape, which is perfectly understandable, but if you look at how lips are actually sideways, guess what is coming back today? Portrait Studio. We're using Portrait Studio to get our anatomy correct. And I just want to know whether or not references were used for these lips or if they're from imagination. Okay, we're gonna also add okay. That's fair, that's fair. I think you did a pretty good job for your imagination. But when it comes to smiles, when it's from the side view, you honestly actually really don't see that much of a smile. So we might just need to shorten that up a little bit. So let me cut that out. We'll do a little bit of liquify. Someone followed me? Question mark, question mark. So this shape is not too bad. We'll just shorten it a little bit and pump out your chin a little bit because you don't want to be drawing characters with a severe underbite unless that is what you intend, in which case I pity the fool that has the underbite because that must be really difficult for them to chew stuff. So before, after, just pop that chin out a little bit. This is looking pretty good. Get that nice clam shape right here. So when you're drawing mouths, in my Colossal course I mentioned, you just want to simplify it to using clam shapes like this. That way it'll always be super easy for you to draw teeth and lips. See that? Drew yourself a good old retainer. And so that's the general shape of a mouth. And so I see that happening here. I would be careful about this part. Maybe we scoot that out, scoot that back a little bit more. Make sure everything is pointing forwards because it's a 3/4 view, but the lip always points forward. And we'll be careful not to expose too much of the gums unless they're opening their mouth like this. But it looks like in this one it's more subdued, so it's like that. And since we're on the topic of mouths, we're also going to be talking about a bit of the teeth. So your canines are not separate from the rest of your teeth, so you got to make sure it's nice and curved. So we don't want to be seeing stuff like that. We want to make sure your canines follow along, especially for vampire teeth. And this part needs to be a little bit more rounded. And then for the bottom part of your teeth, again, clam shape, all teeth point inwards. If you've seen a snake's fangs, all right, we're going back to Bing, y'all. Everything points inwards. Like, there's really no reason for the fang to be pointing together like that. Like, how would a vampire get any type of sustenance from their victim if it's pointing like that? Like, you can't even actually bite into the victim. So let's look at it. Okay, so see how the canines point inwards? Inwards. Serious vampire disability, exactly. So that this vampire right here is starving to death today. Like, it's so unfortunate. We are witnessing a famine within the vampire community. And so we gotta point those babies back inwards. And typically you don't want to do the bottom ones just as long. And they gotta line up, so I gotta push this over a little bit. Make sure your teeth line up. So, human teeth. Alright, oops. Human teeth. The canines line up pretty close together, so you gotta make sure even when you're opening your mouth, they line up. Especially for vampires, or else it's gonna look a little wonky. And then a little bit of shadow here. And so your vampire teeth look a lot better now. Okay, and then for this one, you want to be careful when you're sketching lips. You don't want to draw lips like that because it's going to look very closed off. Because in reality, lips don't actually have that kind of line indentation. So you can draw the top part because that's, you know, that's going to have that little dip, so you can sort of believe it, but you want to be careful about drawing the sides of it. So typically when I sketch lips, I don't close it off unless they're wearing lipstick, okay? So the only time you would catch me closing off the lip is if I'm drawing lipstick. Like that. In which case then it would look somewhat natural for you to, you know, close off the ends. Oops, okay, wrong layer. And then this 3/4, just pay attention that you are making sure that even if you are drawing 3/4, the lip has to be sort of like a uniform smile, so they all have to line up in a single line. Okay, so this needs to be raised up a little bit. Oops. And make sure these are lining up along a curve. Okay, so that means this part needs to be raised back down. And push this out a little bit because the lips are pretty full, especially this part. We don't want it to, you know, have some thin lip syndrome. We want spicy lips here. Alright, then usually there's a little bit of shadow being cast. And then the teeth issue here is back. Teeth, we like just like how we draw lips, we gotta make sure it follows along the curve. Good old teeth. So don't you did those skull studies, you might as well analyze a little bit about what you did for the skull studies so you understand a little bit more about how the teeth work. Alright, so your canines there. Alright, so you gotta make sure, especially from 3/4 view, that everything follows along a nice curve. Okay, start with the line first, and then you can later, you know, break up the details a little bit. And when it comes to smiling from the side, your mouth actually gets stretched a little bit. Hence why we get that kind of dark shadow right there. We don't want to just end the mouth in these types of dot and lines. You gotta be careful because those only work when the mouth is like closed like this. That's why it works, because when your mouth is closed, the edges create a little pool of shadow. That's why we simplify it like that, so we gotta be careful. Let's see if we can find a good Virginia. Why is that a search result? Okay, so from the side. It's not perfect. Let's see if we can find a better picture of it. Kind of close. Copy. Oops. See how it doesn't end in a line, but instead the lips are stretched? And that's why we have to be careful, especially around this part. Make sure everything lines up like this. Draw your lips like this first. Let me do it on a different layer, so make sure everything stays on that curve. Here's your teeth. Okay, the teeth, then your clamshell. It might even get hidden because, you know, the teeth are so stretched wide that the teeth kind of blocks you from seeing the other side of the lip. So let's see if we can fix it here. Okay, here's your teeth. Your lips get so stretched wide against your teeth that you no longer have that divot that you would see when your mouth is like somewhat relaxed. Oops. And because it's so stretched thin, you don't get to see too much of the lip creating like that kind of dip. You see it's not very prominent anymore. So you would end up with lips like that instead. Okay. These ones, I think this is a little bit ignoring the angle that you're doing it at. So the lips needs to pop out more. So the way we do this, you get an overlap of the lip because everything is rounded out. Okay, so this is the 3D shape that you would see. 3D shape you would see of the lips, especially this top part. It's a little bit confusing at first if you don't know how lips are shaped or like at that angle particular, so that's why you're gonna need to have a good reference photo. And I'm on the wrong layer again. Woo woo, woo woo. Okay. So first things first that we have to do, we have to make sure the lip is hiding that side of the lip. That's the main concern for this particular angle. So once you get that in there, it'll look a lot more natural. You see how just hiding that lip a little bit already fixed a lot of the issues this angle was having? And then just make sure it's wide enough, same size all the way through. So, see that how you tuck that lip in? Problem solved. These two right here are a little bit concerning. So let's see if I can use Portrait Studio. So if you're not sure about the angle for that, I would highly recommend you take pictures of your own lips because number one, it's your own lip, so you can do whatever you want with it, and number two, because your camera, it's going to be able to capture angles that are more intimate than you would be able to find online. Because like, what are you gonna look up when you're trying to find like a picture of a top, like bottom up view of a lip? It tends to be very difficult unless you know exactly what you're searching for. Okay, I'm gonna delete this baby. Okay. Alright, so you're gonna notice, especially from this view, you're not gonna see your teeth because, believe it or not, your lips, your top and bottom lips line up on the same plane. So when you're looking from bottom up, and especially in such a tight angle, you're literally not gonna have a chance to see the teeth. And so number one thing we gotta do is get rid of the teeth. And then after that, if we're gonna do, what is this angle? It's gonna be hard. Okay, let's see if we can do it. It's like that angle, right? So you got the curve right, but it's a little too curved. Just a tad bit, maybe bring that up a little bit. See how the face isn't super smushed like that. It's more wider like that. So you gotta compensate for that, especially from this angle. So first things first, get rid of that. And you get your shadow right here. This whole section be in shadow. Again, this is also not perfect because I'm not like actually painting and I'm trying to sketch it out, so this angle's a little bit tad difficult. The way you represent it usually is you draw the little dip for the upper lip. Alright, so that's general sense of the lip from that angle. It's gonna be hard to sketch it actually, just because a lot of that lip requires you to just use shadow and form to divide the top and the bottom lip. But this one's gonna be a little bit easier for you at least. It's only gonna require you to just bring out that lip a little bit. Alright, not too far. Ooh. Not too far out. Make sure you try not to use too hard of a line to divide your lip, because the lip is a soft feature on your face, so if you're using too harsh of a lines to break up the shape of the lip, it's not going to look very natural. So leave some breathing room for yourself. Right here, you just get a really dark shadow right there. And already it looks a little bit more natural. Alright, before, it's very harsh lines, especially around the lip line. Like I said in the smooth skin tutorial, lips are very smooth and like transition towards the skin very naturally because you gotta treat them as one. So when you put lines like that on lips, it makes it feel like you're doing lip liner, in which case a lot of times you are not actually wearing lipstick and it's gonna create a very cartoony, very pursed lip kind of look. Whereas if you just leave a little bit of space between the lip corners and the actual lip itself, it looks a little bit more natural because you're treating it like you're part of your skin. Let's see. This one looks pretty good. Just be careful with the trap of doing the dots at the end. Smooth it out a little bit like that so it doesn't look entirely like a dot. This one again, this angle, you gotta make sure you overlap the lip a little bit more. So here's your teeth, lip overlaps like that. Lip would be tucked in a little bit more. Okay, so you get that overlap right there. The teeth would be hidden and this whole part would be in shadow, you know? This teeth is looking good. Just be careful with the bottom teeth. You want to make sure, again, the teeth are nice and round. and the lip's gonna actually get tucked behind the teeth, especially if the mouth is this wide open. So you gotta make sure we have symmetry. Okay, so make sure it stays this shape no matter what angle we're doing. Both lip corners line up. So that's why this lip right here is gonna get tucked in. Or you're not gonna get a chance to see that back tooth because it's just hiding away from all of us. Okay, so that was the tongue. Okay. Practice right here. A tongue almost fills up the entire space of your mouth, so you really don't get that much of a shadow. Especially if your tongue is like poking out while you're smiling. You don't get that much shadow anymore. So if you are in doubt, bust that tongue out. And then again, the teeth are a little tiny, a little bit on the small side today. So if you just look at your own reference, the tooth is pretty big, the jaw is pretty big in comparison to your tongue. So your canines would actually basically line up pretty close to the sides. And then we bring back that shadow right there. Make sure we don't have thin lip syndrome. And we don't want to do too much of the upturned curls like that for smiles, because that doesn't look very good, especially from this far side, because you really don't see that type of smile. You might be able to get away with it on this side, but this side it's going to be pretty subtle. So making sure that our lip is in the right angle, is tucked behind everything. And then we can bring this part into a little bit of shadow. Okay, because the tongue is a 3D form. Alright, alright, alright. So we're gonna make sure we treat it as such. Like that. And I would say we might even get rid of that smile, because when you are opening up your tongue like that, you no longer really have that chance to get that really smirky look like that. That only works really well for closed smiles. This one's looking pretty good, but be careful, again, to get that angle of the teeth. So all the teeth are going to be pointing downwards like this, especially from that angle. If you can imagine your dentures, right? So all of them pointing inwards from that angle. Make sure you tuck that lip a little bit on this angle. See how that creates a better silhouette, especially if you're thinking about how the jaw would fit into the picture. It curves inward, so you gotta make sure the lip curves in a little bit more. Tuck this one a little bit, lines up. Don't have it poke out too much. And again, be careful with the with the little dots at the end. So the lips need to come out this way. So that's why I hesitate to do the whole this way, because the lips are a round feature like that. So that's why I tend to, you know, leave lips sort of unspoken for at this point of the lip. Right at this area. It's best to leave it a little bit more open-ended so the viewer can kind of, you know, fill in the picture. And then again for this one, the way we would fix it, make sure those teeth are big enough. So even if you have thin lip syndrome, it still needs to be somewhat proportional. Alright, and the reason why we get this sort of like shadowy dot smile kind of thing is when our lips are sitting. Okay, here's your lip. Let me put this on a different layer. Okay, so when your lips are sitting just like that, this right here creates a little shadow when it meets the bottom lip. Hence why when you're smiling, you end up having a shadow because this shadow is being cast by that top lip onto, you know, the bottom part of the top lip and into the edge of the face. Hence why we tend to get simplification like that. So we have to be careful not to do it for every single angle, because that's not going to show up in every single situation, especially when your mouth is more wide open. When it's stretched out like this, when you're gaping open, you're not going to see that kind of shadow. And so this one, again, be careful with making the ends touch the edge of the paper, edge of your lip I mean. And make sure lips are a little more flat around this area. They're not super round. Actually, lips are a little bit more rectangular in shape, so that's why you don't want to do too Disney-like of a lip, like with the Princess Tiana or something like that. Like, ooh. That's only good for like cartoon. If you're trying for a little more realistic, you want to stray a little bit away from that. Alright, and so this is before, actually, before, after, before, after. See how just some of these get a little bit more juiciness in the lips? Yeah. And so always remember, keep it clamshell shaped, U-shapes, a lot of U-shapes. All your teeth, your mouth has to follow along that same curve. You don't want to just have your random teeth being super tiny as if like you have baby dentures in your mouth. Like this is looking like you have a buck tooth because it's so tiny, whereas this looks a little bit more reasonable, like you actually have teeth in your mouth. And so I might as well, since I have about an hour left, I might as well bust out some of your hands from this month's Discord and we'll talk a little bit about it. Oops. These canvases a little bit bigger. Alright. You never know how much to curve the mouth. Yeah, it's like hard. I would say a good measure for how much to curve the mouth is typically like you don't want U's, you rather want rainbows. So rainbow shapes are preferred over U's. U's are only gonna occur when your mouth is like wide open like this. Otherwise, it's more subtle kind of rainbow shapes, kind of like parentheses, parabola kind of shapes. And it'll just take a little bit of experience and like practice to like see more pictures of people with their mouths, and then you'll kind of get a more intuitive sense of like whether or not the mouth is too curved or not curved enough. So a quick hand review, because who am I if I don't love drawing hands? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. AI right here. Someone's using an AI. First things first, I would say great job challenging yourself to try to push yourself to work faster and trying to identify values a little bit better. This one looks really great. I can really see the knuckle shape, and maybe it's just the type of brush you're using, that's why it looks so choppy, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. If you had more time, you probably would have fixed it up, cleaned it up like this, you know. Make sure the knuckles aren't too M shapes and are more like slopes. Okay, and already that looks a lot better. A real easy fix for this. We're just gonna make this finger bigger. And there we have 5 fingers again. And so I want to make sure you're careful with how you're laying down your values when you're working this quick. Make sure you're using bigger brushes, okay? Bigger size brushes like this big. So then you get to lay down a huge chunk of the color rather than using a smaller brush, say like this, and then having to do this. And that's going to take you longer when you're trying to work fast. So summary, when you're working fast, use bigger brush strokes. It doesn't matter if it, you know, ends up choppy. You can always fix the shape in a bit, right? See how I capture that thumb real quick? And then also take advantage of your lasso tool to work fast. Yeah, finding the right brush is hard, which is why I like basically always default to this square brush, because it's really great for blocking especially, and it has a little bit of blending capabilities due to the opacity of it. And it gives a little bit of texture also, so that's why it's really great. But typically for these types of exercises, I would try to find a more blockier type of brush with a little bit of blending capability. Doesn't matter if it has texture or not. Yeah. It's not perfect. I think because the original Aaron Griffin, when he created this, was like back in 2015. I don't think Procreate was that popular back then, so obviously this brush set would not be perfect for that, but I'm sure Procreate has like an equivalent brush where, let's see, this one has shape dynamics on it, I think, so minimum diameter. It has a little bit of transfer apparently, and then has a little bit smoothing. And so that's why you get this nice kind of layering effect. So make sure for this type of sketching exercises, use your lasso tool and then find a good blocky kind of brush to block in values rather than using a smooth brush. Never ever for these types of exercise use a smooth brush, because just look how difficult it is for you to capture that same kind of structure when you're using a soft brush. It's lagging. It's lagging. My Photoshop's lagging. Okay. Look at how difficult it is for you to capture that same kind of structure. Like it's too blurry. It's like I put on 300-degree glasses, even though I have like relatively good vision. Yeah, square brush is really good, especially for when you're in like the early planning stages. You don't want to be using round or soft brushes because you're not going to be able to see any of the basic structure of the form. And so lasso tool real quick, get that in there. Soft brush, get that darkness in there. Nice shadow right there. marble. Doesn't really matter if you make it perfect, but be careful right here, the knuckles. Make sure you define the knuckles or else the hand doesn't really look like the hand without the knuckles. So nice clean knuckles right here. Right there, see how that already shapes up your hand? Having those extra knuckles especially. See this part? This is always going to create like a really harsh cast shadow. This one, for these types, use your lasso tool. Take out your soft brush. Right there, helps you blend out that value, because right here you can have a sharp edge because you have sort of a more distinct edge to your thumb. Okay, so just like that. See, this part's a little bit more distinct, so it's okay, but this part right here, not as, it's more flat, so you want to make sure it's a little bit more blended out. And make sure you get the major knuckles in the thumb. You see that shape that you lost. So bust out my blocky brush. Recapture that knuckle right here. You need to capture this knuckle or else you really can't see the thumb. Okay, so you get that top shadow. That's super important. Alright, look, already it looks a lot more like a hand because you have the thumb. So when all things fails, get the thumb first. It's okay if you don't get the other fingers, but without the thumb you really can't tell that it's a hand. And then we can just, you know, real quick clean up that right there. And so already see that thumb. The thumb made the whole difference. And then for Misu, these are also for 2 minutes. And so yeah, I can see that you had trouble finding a good brush because this is just a result of having a horrible brush that will not work with you. Like, I totally understand that. Like, this brush, as much as I love the texture, if it did not have this blending capability, I would go crazy over it. And so we're just gonna, if we just smooth this out for you, it already looks a lot better once you have a solid brush that will work with you. Make sure you capture. Make sure you capture the knuckles. Don't worry too much about the tiny kind of highlights, because of a trap that you usually fall into is like you see a bright spot and you're like, oh, this is brighter than this area, so I gotta do a tiny little highlight. But in the case of painting hands, you want to avoid using too tiny of the highlights because it's gonna make your hand look way too nuanced and you lose the general structure of it. So this part right here looks good, but before right here where you had that one tiny highlight on the knuckle, like in the center, it looks a little too nuanced and you kind of don't see the structure of it. Okay, so bust out lasso tool, carve that really nice knuckle structure. Already much better. Simplify the hand like this. You don't have, where you're pressed for time, simplify the hand into basic blocks like that. Okay? See how that helps you carve out bent fingers, even though you didn't have much time to, like, you know, get into the nuances of like, oh, there's actually a little bit of light in here. No, we don't care. It's 2 minutes. There's not enough time for us to think about all that. We want the basic shapes, basic shapes, basic shapes. See that? See how quickly I'm carving out the knuckles? This part's a little bit in shadow, a little bit in shadow, a little shadow, shadow. Maybe this is some kind of piece of chalk. This is gonna be in darkness. Darkness. General shape of the hand. Real quick. And just like that, it already looks a little bit more like a hand because I blocked in all of the knuckles and the general formation of the hand. And now I'm gonna fix up a little bit of the shadows so it looks a little more transitionable. And that's only if you have time. If you don't have time, just leave it. See that? Right? Looks a lot more like a hand. We want to not do these types of shadows when you don't have enough time, okay? You're going to simplify. Do a little bit of a squinting of your eyes. See which part is dark, which part is generally light, okay? It's gonna be, this part's gonna be a little bit darker. This part's a little bit darker because light's coming from this way. Simplify that, simplify that. This part's extra dark. Alright. And already you're getting that shape of the finger. See that? None of that again, okay? So for the next time we do more studies, we're going to try our very, very best to squint our eyes and only look at general forms like this, okay? And that way your hands will look a lot more like hands, because you're capturing the major shadows, right? So it's like, look at the light shining on top of my knuckle, my fist. I'm going to only treat this as one value. This is another value. This shadow right here, another value. This part in between, maybe another value, and that's about it, okay? And that's how you would do it really quickly, and you wouldn't have to stress too much. Okay, it's like 3 o'clock. Let me think. Do I have any pieces of work that I'm working on? Probably not. I might call it an early day today, and maybe I'll stream a little bit more in the future after I finish up the tutorial, lighting tutorial, which is like, I'm almost like done with it. Yeah, hands. Maybe we'll do that again if next month we don't have that many people for critique. Like, I'll just go into the monthly challenge and we can talk about your monthly challenge submissions, or you know, that kind of stuff, and so you get like an evaluation on how well you did on the challenges, and you can, you know, go back and try it again if you want. Anyway, I will call it a day, and I hope you guys enjoyed the critique. If you let me know if you want the PSDs for these, because usually I just send the JPEG, but I don't know if you want to keep the PSDs so you can mess around with the layers a little bit more. It's up to you. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Alright, if there's PSDs would be nice. Okay, I'll keep the PSDs for these, and then upload it to, I'll send it to you individually through the Patreon messaging format or whatever, yeah. Because I don't think it's easy for me to send it through Discord because the file size, but I hope you guys have a good day, good rest of your evening if you're gonna go to bed, and Greta, hopefully you went to bed already, and we'll talk a little bit soon, okay? Bye bye!